Welcome to On Trial, starring Mark Radulich, also starring Sean Comer. Hope you're ready, Hollywood, because you're on trial.
All rise. Court is now in session. The Honorable Walt Disney presiding. Sure. This is On Trial, the podcast where we debate the merits, pros, and cons of all your favorite movies of yesteryear. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich, and joining me to prosecute Disney's 1996 live-action remake of their animated 1961 classic, 101 Dalmatians, starring Glenn Close, is Sean Comer. You're not. How do you do, Sean Comer?
Good evening, everybody, and happy Pride from the happiest pan on the stove.
So, we had a pre-podcast chat, but I do always like to give some context here. What's your familiarity with the 101 Dalmatians, the cartoon, the book? Have you seen Cruella? All of it.
I saw the original animated classic, I think, once or twice when I was but a wee lad, and I loved it. It's your standard Disney animated classic fare. It's about what you would probably expect in just about every sense. I have not seen Cruella yet, although from everything I've heard, it is just a fascinating car wreck to witness.
We spent 2 hours and 20 minutes on it. That'll tell you.
And up until a few hours ago, I had not seen this version. I regret that I waited this long. This is absolutely, utterly fantastic. Why have I deprived myself so long by not setting aside an hour 45 minutes to just drink it all in?
I hadn't seen it either. Like you, I saw the animated classic. I haven't watched any of the television shows. Like 101 Dalmatians among the the Disney Golden Era and then the Disney Renaissance is not one of the ones I have a tremendous emotional attachment to. It's one I've seen a couple of times. I noticed something. I watched it with my kids today, and there's a forthcoming alternative commentary for it later this week for people to get excited about if you enjoy my kids yelling random nonsense at the movies. But
I imagine Lily's random nonsense has to just be the best.
She's actually pretty low key. My son, however, fancies himself a comedian, and we had to have a talk today about how if you're just gonna be a machine gun of jokes, that just know they're not all going to hit the target. Sometimes you're going to shoot a cat, or the neighbor's house or something. You're not a marksman just yet.
He's that first season of the MST3K revival where it's just jokes, and not the second one where they actually learn to pace things out and just kind of let the jokes land a little bit.
Yeah, I have actually not watched a tremendous amount of Mystery Science 3000, but I now kind of want to because I'm like, all right, I got to figure out how to work with him, and so I want to see what they did because if we're going to keep doing these, I kind of want them to be better than us just like.
Okay,
calling it in the ring.
In that case, yeah, my advice, again, don't have him watch the first season of the revival, just called Mystery Science Theater 3000: The Return.
Yeah.
That's just going to reinforce the bad behavior. And don't get me wrong. I love Jonah Ray and Baron Vaughn and Hampton Yount, but they really needed to get to that second season to fall into more of that less is more sensibility and really kind of emphasizing timing a little more like Joel Hodgson and Mike Nelson before.
So yeah, I mean, there's stuff from that era like the Aristocats or whatever There's something about like the second tier classics of Walt Disney that are fun and everything, but they have some issues. And 101 Dalmatians was like, oh, that's the dog one, and all I ever remembered about it was it's funny. I was thinking about this as we were starting the podcast. I had kind of a Peter Griffin watching Stripes moment while watching the film today, where I'm like, oh, Stripes is on. I love this movie. Bill Murray in the Army is great. And I'm thinking to myself regarding 101 Dalmatians, oh, I love 101 Dalmatians. Cruella de Vil madly driving after the dogs as they run away from her. That's great. You have to wait like 9 hours for them to get to that part in the movie.
Well, the sad part is that's the only really memorable, enjoyable aspect of it.
Yeah, Whitney Seibald's like 101 Dalmatians is about dogs watching television. He's not wrong.
Yeah, there's most of the other animated classics. You have something else you can kind of gravitate toward as its really iconic thread, as its hallmark. It's funny you mentioned 101 Dalmatians and the Aristocats because they both fall into that same category.
Yeah, they do.
Of you watch it and you kind of have a hard time remembering why you liked it so much.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be a cat and forgets there's still 100 minutes left, like 80 minutes left of the picture to go. But do you remember when we did The Long Road to Ruin, which will be re-aired later this year, for Cinderella, and we talked about how it's 10% about Cinderella and 80 and 90% about the fucking mice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the pattern I'm noticing for Disney in this period of filmmaking, where it's like, and again, I go back to Peter Griffin yelling at the television, "Get in the army already!" You're just it's like waiting for the film to focus on the titular character, the star of the thing, and not these other side characters that you don't give a shit about and who aren't doing anything. And so that was my problem with 101 Dalmatians, which we will talk about while my son screams at the television when I finally air that. This one, you're not wrong, man. This is one of those rare, like I think when I'd planned this over a year ago when I got the initial before the COVID-19 rather. They had announced that there was going to be a Cruella prequel, and and it was I think like a Christmas release and everything, and so I did like I always do, like, oh, okay, IP, let's see what else is out there that Sean and I can do, as a companion piece, and a scant Google search later, I found it, and I'm like, oh, perfect, Glenn Close, 101 Dalmatians, 1996, perfect, and I didn't think about it again. But I'd never seen it. 1996, I'm in college, and I'm not watching, the Disney remake of 101 Dalmatians with Glenn Close. None of those words were appealing to me in 1996. But having watched it with my kids before we did this podcast today, again, you're not wrong. And some of the things I'm reading about this now for the first time, I mean, like, she got nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Actress. No shit.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, no, rightfully so. This improves upon the cartoon in a lot of ways, and that's not something I can readily say about Disney. Cruella. They really hit it out of the park with this. But so let's talk about it. You got any notes for me?
Not really. To be honest, I didn't bother. This one, I didn't really feel like being the historian.
Okay.
I was actually so excited after for so many years hearing how almost surprisingly stellar this was. I wanted to sit back and just enjoy this as a fan. And Anne was absolutely tickled that for a change, she got to be the one sitting there while I experienced something she loved for the very first time. And yeah, there just wasn't a moment of this movie that disappointed me.
Okay. So just real quick. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say just not for a second. I was just kind of charmed and beguiled by it right from the start.
So the whole thing, this whole IP is an adaptation of Dodie Smith's 1956 novel, The 101 Dalmatians. This was directed by Stephen Herrick, and Stephen Herrick, a couple of things that he's directed: Critters, which I'm sure you're aware of if you haven't seen it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, this guy Stephen Herrick should be one of your favorite directors. Here's a quick list of movies he's directed: Critters, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, a classic. Hey Sean, The Mighty Ducks. The 1993 Three Musketeers, which I believe we did on trial for.
And I did love that one too.
Mr. Holland's Opus, Holy Man, Rockstar, Life or Something Like It, Man of the House, Dead Like Me, Life After Death, Into the Blue 2, The Reef, The Chaperone. Remember The Chaperone from 2011?
Wait, the Triple H babysitter movie?
Yeah, buddy. And the most recent things that he's done are Reverse Runner in 2013 and The Great Gilly Hopkins in 2015. He has something coming up that doesn't have a link to it called Afterlife of the Party and has no date set. Some television things that he's worked on. He directed some episodes of the most recent MacGyver. He worked on Hawaii Five-0, a couple of episodes. The Rush Hour television show. Jinx, Lucky 7, Dallas from 2013. And that's about it. He's won a couple of awards. He won one for Mr. Holland's Opus. He won one for Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors, which is a great song, by the way. And he's won a couple of things for The Great Gilly Hopkins and, once again, Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors. So he directed this, and he did a really good job with it. It was produced by John Hughes of the Breakfast Club fame, as I recall.
I definitely noticed that, yeah.
16 Candles, Pretty in Pink, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So yeah, this is the John Hughes deal. Screenplay, John Hughes. And it stars Glenn Close as Cruella DeVille, Jeff Daniels as Roger Dearly, Jolie Richardson as Anita, Joan Plowright as the nanny, Hugh Laurie, which threw me for a loop because I'm like, is that House, right? That was his show that everyone loved him in?
Well, depending on when you started watching him, either House or Blackadder.
Okay, House is the one I'm thinking of.
Or a bit of Fry and Laurie.
But yeah, Hugh Laurie from fucking House is one of the goons. Mark Williams is the other one. John Shrapnel's in this. Tom McInerney. Hugh Frazier, Brian Caprone, and Frank Welker does the creature sounds for Pongo and Parody. So, none of the dogs have speaking roles in this. This is all them acting with their doggy facial expressions. 101 Dalmatians was released November 27, 1996. It grossed $320 million in theaters against a $75 million budget. So this was a huge hit. It was the sixth grossing highest film of 1996. Close was, again, nominated for a Golden Globe. The film was also nominated for a BAFTA Award for Best Makeup Effects. And this then was greenlit for a sequel, and then, why we're talking about it, a subsequent reboot starring Emma Stone and Emma Thompson, who are the best parts of that movie. Plug, check out our review. Bit of controversy. This is fun. Animal rights organizations protested the film's release, saying that Dalmatian sales shot up after the premiere, fueled by impulsive purchases of puppies by parents for their children. Our dumb culture. Being ill-prepared to care for a relatively difficult breed of dog past puppyhood, many of these new owners eventually surrendered their animals to pounds, where many dogs ended up being euthanized. That is really sad and unfortunate.
Aww.
Yeah. So this has a 41 on Rotten Tomatoes. This is a 41 critical score based on 37 reviews. It's got a Metacritic score of 49 out of 100 based on 20 critics, giving it mixed or average. And then Cinema Score gave it an A on its A+ to F scale. All right, so here's your plot, such as it is. American video game designer, which, by the way, my son's immediate reaction to that was, this is automatically a better movie than the cartoon. Thus, that was his criteria. You want him for a summer? Because I feel like you would bond more with my son than I can at times.
Just because they swapped out Roger being a composer in favor of him being a game design nerd?
Is what my son decided was the critical element in making this a superior film than the animated version.
Oh, bless your face, Jonas.
American video game designer Roger Dearly lives with his pet Dalmatian Pongo. The review of Rocky 5000 in London. One day, Pongo sets his eyes on a female Dalmatian named Purdy. After a frantic chase through the streets of London that ends in St. James Park, Roger discovers that Pongo likes Purdy. Because of course he does. He's a dog. Her owner, Anita Campbell Green, falls in love with Roger when they meet. They both fall into the lake as a result of their dogs chasing each other. But they return to Roger's home, and Anita accepts his proposal. They get married along with Purdy and Pongo. Anita works as a fashion designer at the House of DeVille. Her boss, the pampered and very glamorous Cruella DeVille, has a deep passion for fur. She loves fur! Going so far as to have a taxidermist, Mr. Skinner, skin a white tiger like you do at the London Zoo to make it into a rug for her. Anita, inspired by her Dalmatian, designs a coat made with spotted fur. Cruella is intrigued by the idea of making garments out of actual Dalmatians and finds it amusing that it would seem as if she were wearing Anita's dog. Which should have signaled that there were some problems here, but hey, the movie. Anita soon discovers that Purdy is pregnant and is then informed that she is too, much to her shock. Sometime later, Cruella visits their home and expresses contempt upon meeting Roger. And really, who doesn't have contempt for, Jeff Daniels? Just kidding.
Oh, come on.
Just kidding. I'll never forgive you for Dumb and Dumber. Anyway, her initial disgust at them having a baby turns to excitement when she finds out that Purdy is expecting too. Several weeks later, she returns when a litter of 15 puppies are born and offers Roger and Anita £7,500 for them, but they refuse. Enraged, Cruella dismisses Anita and vows revenge against her and Roger. One winter evening, she has her henchmen, Jasper and Horace, break into their home and steal the puppies, while Roger and Anita are walking in the park with Pongo and Purdy. Along with 84 other Dalmatians that were previously stolen, they deliver them to her ancient county estate, DeVille Mansion. Cruella also asks Skinner to kill and skin them to create her coat. With the family devastated at the loss of their puppies, Pongo uses the twilight bark to carry the message via the dogs and other animals of Great Britain, while Roger and Anita notify the Metropolitan Police. A dog who has witnessed the stolen puppies follows Jasper and Horace to the mansion and finds all of them inside before helping them escape under the duo's noses. They make their way to a nearby farm, where they are later joined by Pongo and Purdy. Cruella arrives at the mansion and soon discovers what has happened. Angry with the thieves' failure, she decides to carry out the job herself, while Jasper and Horace attempt to search for them also. After several mishaps... By the way, another really insightful thing my son said, what is this, Home Alone? Jasper and Horace... It's like when he actually takes a moment to breathe and get oxygen to his brain, he comes up with really funny insight. That's why we started doing these alternative comments.
Yeah.
When he's just rapid fire Robin Williams, he's 7 and not on cocaine, so it doesn't work as well.
John Hughes had his hands in Home Alone, didn't he? I know Chris Columbus directed it.
Maybe I'd have to look. After several mishaps, just shout it as I'm reading. After several mishaps, Jasper and Horace discover nearby police on the hunt for Cruella and her henchmen and hand themselves in, joining Skinner, who was beaten earlier while trying to kill Lucky, who had been left behind.
Written and produced by John Hughes.
There we go. Well, that makes sense, and my son, super perceptive. Meanwhile, Cruella tracks the puppies to the farm, where they are hiding, and tries to retrieve them. However, the animals outwit her, like you do, causing her to fall into a vat of molasses, which looked like she was being birthed into Urukai, and get thrown through a window into a pig pen. And in the alternate cut, she's eaten by the pigs. No, just kidding. Shortly afterwards, the fleeing Dalmatians...
You just about owed me a new laptop, you son of a bitch.
You almost angry dragon over the laptop?
You just about forced me to give my laptop a Sprite Bukkake.
Are found and sent home via the Suffolk Constabulary. While the cops were looking for Cruella at the farm, where they finally arrest her, In the police van, she berates Jasper, Norris, and Skinner for their incompetence before they are all sprayed by a skunk, which she had mistaken for her purse. Pongo, Purdy, and their puppies are reunited with Roger and Anita. After being informed that the 84 puppies have no home to go to, as they have not been claimed by their original owners, they decide to adopt them, bringing the total to 101. That's the name of the movie, says the pitch meeting. Roger designs a successful video game featuring Dalmatian puppies as the protagonists and Cruella as the villain as they move to the countryside with their millions. Roger and Anita have a baby daughter, and a year later the puppies have grown up with puppies of their own. All right, Sean, I know that this was a wild improvement over the original cartoon, and there's not a whole lot wrong with it given the level of entertainment it is shooting for, but go ahead and poke holes in it anyway. You're a witness, sir.
How dare this movie? How very dare this movie? The clitting nerve for Disney to allow this movie to set such an unattainably high bar for its eventual animation to live action reimaginings to never ever come even remotely laughably close to meeting. Where do you get off? Have you no soul, John Hughes? Have you no soul? These movies were The Lion King and Beauty and the Beast and The Jungle Book and Aladdin. They was born without a chance, without a prayer in the world. All because this movie came first. Sprinting and pirouetting and breakdancing and moonwalking out of the womb. Whereas Aladdin came out with a chunk of umbilical cord still stuck up its nose. This movie, with all its perfectly measured charm and just a cast absolutely gilded with the very finest in British theater and screen luminaries. And Glenn Close demonstrating that no, villainy is absolutely never outside of her dramatic wheelhouse. And Jeff Daniels just issuing the tenderest, most abject apology for Dumb and Dumber. And Jolie Fisher just being absolutely demure and adorable through every second of her screen time, and being able to convey so much without the animals having to have the dopey celebrity voice. What, movie? You're too good for celebrity voices for your critters? Huh? You too fancy for quickly outdated pop culture references? With your timeless ode to the spirit of the animated classic that's somehow even more memorable than the original. This fucking movie. You're a witness.
Well, alrighty then. Well, there's a pattern developing with On Trial where we just kind of talk about the movie and not really debate it. Yeah, I mean, look, I'll state the obvious right off the bat. Glenn Close is the best part of this movie. She absolutely humps the scenery. It's funny. We were talking about Cruella. Again, the whole reason we're doing this podcast this week. And, Robert Winfrey lamented the lost art of villainy. Just the, just sometimes a character is just bad. I mean, sometimes you just have an asshole who wants to make a dog coat. She doesn't need a sympathetic backstory.
See, and the thing is, we talked about this at the top of the show. And that's the fact that this movie is really a product of, I would call it, the earlier years of the golden age of Disney villainy, when the villains, more often than not, really were the best part of the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
I mean, please, by all means, tell me something memorable, something captivating about Aurora and Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, I mean, I think
By all means, I'll wait. Okay, now describe Maleficent to me.
Right.
Or the evil queen in Snow White, or the scheming Machiavellian bitter stepmother in Cinderella. And as you get on and on down the years, you've got Gaston and Ursula and Scar.
And what's his face from The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which no kid ever watched, but the adults love.
Oh God, Frollo.
Yeah.
Frollo, yes. I'm trying. Yeah, I was trying to remember his name too. Like you said, just villains who just were born with evil in their heart and didn't need some complex motivation to be compelling.
Right. You didn't need to understand, well, don't you, she was adopted and she was abandoned and, and she had this innate talent, but it doesn't matter. She's an old lady, who's an asshole and wants to make a dog coat. And you shouldn't kill dogs, not to make a coat at least. That's it. That is all you needed to know about Cruella de Vil. And Glenn Close sort of, again, just comparing it to the cartoon, Cruella de Vil, the character, they make the most out of the time that she's in the cartoon, but she's actually not in it that much. Horace and Jasper take up most of the screen time that isn't focused on Anita, Roger, and the dogs. So, she only had a handful of scenes. But they make the most of it, and so they're adapting this, and a lot of it's a word for word adaptation of the thing. But they because this is a live action feature, they fleshed it out a little bit more. They gave Glenn Close a little bit more, and when you have Glenn Close, you need to use her as much as possible, and they did. And she's one of these characters where she elevates the whole thing. I mean, it's a kid's picture, but she is so entertaining and so dynamic and so full of fervor that it's an absolutely captivating performance. We talked about Training Day a couple of years ago on trial, and kind of in her own way, very similar to what I said about Denzel Washington, where he. I was very crude about the way I described him, but the point that I made then and the point that I'm making with Glenn Close is sometimes you have someone who has such a big, broad, entertaining performance, you find yourself being captivated by the whole movie because they're so much damn fun. You are absolute whatever nonsense is happening in this movie, you are with them for the ride. And that is the strength of 101 Dalmatians. And everybody else here is charming. Everyone else gives a solid performance. I mean, Jeff Bridges, I goofed on him before, but Jeff Bridges is not an incompetent actor. Sorry, Daniels. Jeff Daniels is not an incompetent actor.
No, not at all.
He's sort of a dopey, oblivious, charming dude. And you're absolutely right about Jolie Richardson. She doesn't have.
I called her Jolie Fisher the first time. My apologies.
Neither one of us get the actors right. It's all right. But Jolie Richardson, she's adorable in this. I mean, she again doesn't have a lot of screen time, not compared to some of the other main cast members. But when she's on screen, she has good chemistry with Jeff Daniels, and she has good chemistry with Glenn Close. I mean, the scene together where she's designing a dress, and and they're kind of going back and forth, and Anita. In one of the rare human moments that she has in this movie, she appreciates Anita's talent and is trying to, in her own crazy way, mentor her. They actually work really well together on screen. I want to talk about the dogs. I talked about this with Godzilla vs. Kong, and Robert Winfrey yelled at me, so he's not here, so I'm going to say it again. And this time not get yelled at. I think that the one of the strengths of Godzilla vs. Kong was how the special effects team were able to get the CGI creatures to emote with their faces because they don't have dialogue. It's not like Godzilla can speak to King Kong. King Kong can yell back, "Why did you say that name?" They have to. They smartly made the two creatures the centerpiece of that movie, and if you're going to have creatures be the centerpiece of that movie, they can't be static. You can't have like the xenomorphs in Aliens, that don't really have expressive faces. They're just terrifying visages. And those movies are carried by the strength of Sigourney Weaver, by and large. So, going back to Godzilla vs. Kong and the comparison to 101 Dalmatians, when your animals, your creatures, are the star of your thing, and you're going to spend that much time focusing on them, you really do have to, and it takes a real special hand to do it. You have to make sure the dogs are framed in a way to where they are capturing interest on screen. And I think they do a better than average job of getting the dogs, such as they can do with an animal, to emote, to express some degree of emotion. I was interested in what the dogs were doing, and not just running, and not just sort of the sight gag comedy kind of a thing, biting someone on the butt and things like that, or running back and forth. The Home Alone type of comedy. But really, like, when the dogs go missing and there's nobody in the frame, it's just Pongo and Purdy, I feel sad for the dogs. They actually, you can feel their hurt and their anxiety about having lost their puppies.
You know what? I'll actually go a step further. Between the animal choreography and the way that it's shot, they find a way for the animals to emote in a heartwarming, endearing, really genuine fashion, but they do it without the action ever becoming cornball.
Yeah, it's not. No, I think those scenes with the dogs are heartfelt, and even the beginning where you have a lot of physical comedy with Pongo and Jeff Daniels. Obviously the dog is much more expressive in the cartoon. Duh, it's cartoon.
They feel like characters, though.
Yeah, they have. That's what I was saying. Like, I very much got that Pongo was a thinking, feeling character as a dog, as much as you can be as a dog. Mm-hmm. Then then something like, I think of another example, but like in other movies where the animal is there and they do funny things with the dog to get a reaction out of people, but the dog is not an expressive character in any kind of way. It's a sight gag. Let me take a minute here, and because we're just kind of having a back and forth discussion, so I want to make sure I get this in. Remind people that Grammarly, one of our great sponsors here on the show, has some awesome AI-powered products that help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2Mnetwork to download Grammarly for free. I don't have a whole lot else to say. I think, as I said before, this is an improvement on the animated classic. One of the things that my kids and I were kind of talking about is there's a lot of stuff from the time the puppies are born to when the puppies escape the, as my son said, because I can sometimes be not the best influence on my kids, the crack house.
Dear God.
He listens to my podcast. He hears some shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's something sobering for me to bear in mind.
Yeah, we had a fun dinner conversation. I'll just go ahead and say that. But in my son's defense, and in partially my own defense here, after I had to explain to him what that was, he was like, "Oh, I'm never going to say that in public again." Jesus. But anyway, so from the time the puppies are born and it's a long stretch of the movie, that's why I complained about it, to when they are escaping the dilapidated house of our two ne'er-do-wells, is so boring. It's oh my god! And this is what we were talking about before with like the pattern of Disney films where these whether it's the Aristocats or Cinderella or just a lot of stuff in that time period. There's just these long stretches of characters just yammering at one another and nothing is happening. And it's like and it's because of the animation style and the age at which it was done. There's nothing interesting to look at on screen. And it's like these are not long movies either. It's not like we're talking about Lord of the Rings here. But I can't get through an 80-minute animated Disney feature without being bored. There's something wrong with your damn movie. So, what this one improves upon is from the period that Purdy has her pups to the period where they're escaping from Horace and Jasper, it's actually chock full of really fun things. They go to Glenn Close a lot. They go back to Anita and Roger. They're doing fun things with the dogs, but they're keeping it moving. That's what I'm trying to say. This movie is so much more, even at 103 minutes, this movie is so much better paced than the animated classic. They really took, and these are good craftsmen. I mean, John Hughes, we just talked about Stephen Herrick, Stephen Herrick. These are guys that know how to make movies, so I'm not surprised that this is as good as it was. All in all, for a late '90s Disney kids film based on one of their previous cartoons. I mean, you talked about it before. You were being facetious, but I'll put this up against Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin. I'll definitely put this up against Lion King. We hated Lion King. We trashed that one when we reviewed it. Talking about the remakes now. This is better than Maleficent. This is a lot better than Maleficent. Maleficent was rock stupid. This isn't stupid. As you have famously said on this podcast on many occasions, just because you're a kid's film doesn't mean it has to be stupid. This isn't stupid.
No, not at all. And you mentioned the Home Alone comparison, and that brings to mind something interesting I observed, and that is that although I really reveled in the chemistry between Jeff Daniels and Joely Richardson, they really are just they're adorable and endearing, again, without ever being saccharine.
Yeah.
Without you ever just wanting them just as far away from any further screen time as they can possibly get. But they really kind of meter out their time in the story just enough, just to sort of remind you of the emotional stakes. But then when you obviously can't just bounce right back to Cruella, you've got Hugh and Mark, who absolutely make the most of every single second they're on screen together. They just play off each other, just utterly beautifully. It really is. If all you're familiar with Hugh Laurie from is House, and if you've never had a chance to see a bit of Fry and Laurie, if you've never had the distinct privilege of watching Blackadder, this is a fantastic introduction to just how much range that dramatic and comedic treasure of a man possesses. He makes the most of his time, but the nice thing about these two is it's not like they ever really devolve into Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern parody or aping. They really feel like the characters from the animated classic, just tastefully made flesh.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I love about so much entertainment that comes out of England, that comes out of the UK, and that is that so much of it really just kind of has this balance to it. this just kind of perfect meter, this ideal tempo to everything. And although obviously this didn't come from the UK per se, it manages to capture a lot of that same spirit with these two.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get enough of any time with them, and especially the electric fence scene. Oh God, Hugh in particular just absolutely just sells the hell out of his daddy bag getting roasted.
Yeah,
on that live wire.
And maybe I'm projecting, and maybe you agree, maybe you disagree, but I really did feel like the cast, Glenn Close and Hugh Laurie especially, were having the time of their life with this. Like, they knew what they were in, and they were like, okay, we're making a dog kids movie. Let's have fun with this. Let's be alive. Let's give the people a show.
Oh yeah, this was by no means Glenn and Hugh just trying to make, chicken salad out of chicken shit, or just collecting a paycheck. Oh no, they were all in from the very start.
And it shows, and it's a really enjoyable viewing experience because of that. Like, I honestly, I wanted to do this, but when I sat down to watch it, I was like, I'm probably going to hate this, and I'm probably going to have to look for reasons to defend it. And when it was over, I was like, holy crap, that was really good. Like, that was better than it had any right to be. And a large part of that is because the cast was having a good time with it, and they clearly knew they were working on a quality project.
Actually, one of the oddest compliments that I can really give this movie, despite it being an update of an animated classic that came out, what was it?
1961.
Yeah, that at the time came out 35 years earlier. And I damn sure can't say this about the live action Aladdin. Thanks, Will. This one is timeless. It never feels like a simple product of its time. It's not like you're sitting down and you're watching Shrek.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like it has that kind of astounding cross-generational appeal, whereas you have some Disney classics that are remembered with such dewy eyes because people forged their memories of them decades ago, when Disney hadn't yet fully tested what they were capable of creatively, and they hadn't evolved into the company that they are today. Whereas you have other movies that are going to land more stylistically with younger audiences, because that's who they're geared towards. I feel like you could show this to a 60 or a 6-year-old, and they are equally as likely to just have the pants charmed off of them by it.
Mm-hmm.
That is remarkable, just how few movies you can say that about anymore.
All right, we are at about the 45-minute mark of this, and it sounds like we both really, really liked it. I will, your major criticism of this was, it's so good. So I'll be the bad guy here.
Over right from the start.
I'll be the bad guy here and say, look, no movie is perfect, and I haven't looked and seen what the critics had an issue with here. I think look, I enjoyed Glenn Close's performance, but I think if you're looking for people to act like humans, this isn't the movie for you, because Glenn Close plays a monster. She plays an entertaining monster, But you know, she might as well have stomped the shit out of Tokyo while she was at it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I came into this pretty damn excited for Glenn's performance because number one, I remember the critical acclaim that it got when the movie came out, but also in the intervening years, I've seen every episode and every season of Damages. Mm-hmm. I got a real special place in my heart for the despicable Patty Hughes. I don't know what I came into this movie expecting. Patty Hughes was not what I got.
No. She showed up to set, and I have this, like, I don't know if this is what really happened. I haven't read anything about it, and I might be projecting again, but it did feel like Stefan Herrick, like, tried to direct her, and she was like, I'm fucking Glenn Hughes, bitch. Sorry, I'm Glenn Close, bitch. Close. Glenn Hughes. I'm fucking Glenn Close, bitch. You know, and she, you know, she's just like, you know, like she saw.
Is Melissa aware of that?
Huh?
You said I'm fucking Glenn Close, bitch.
Oh, yeah. She.
I'm sorry. You teed that one up for me.
No, it's fine. Now I feel like again, it was kind of like. She, you know, her agent says, "Hey, I got you a Disney picture. You're going to get X, Y, Z," and she's like, "All right, I'm in." You know, I don't remember what else she's doing in 1996, but she's a working actress. She's obviously one of the best actresses of our generation, and you know, and sometimes you take the easy Disney money. She's like, "All right, so what's the gig?" She's like, "You're going to be Cruella de Vil." Cruella de what now? She's like, "Oh, the villain that wants the dog coat from the Disney cartoon." And, like, you know, she probably had, like, an agent or somebody, or not an agent. She probably had, like, an assistant or somebody, like, show me kind of like a Vince McMahon thing, like, show me the movie. And it just kind of shows her the Cruella de Vil scenes, because who's got time to watch the whole thing when you're Glenn Close? And she's like, oh, I can do that. And, you know, and she gets the script, she memorizes her lines, she gets into costume. But, by the way, her costumes in this are fantastic. Like, I'm not, like, a fashion person or anything, but I have watched an episode or two of Project Runway. Great dresses on her. They costumes in this are top notch. In any case, and so she shows up to set. She's like, "All right, we're gonna do this scene." And now, Glenn, I want you to do. She's like, "No. I got this." And she's just like, "Woo!" And she pulls her dick out and smashes it into the scenery. And yeah, I got that one in there. And they're like, "All right, it's Glenn Close. Like, how do you tell her to not overact?" You know. And when you do get a performance like that, you almost don't want her to. Like, whatever they had in mind, they were like, nope, she's fine. Just let her do what she's doing. And they, you know, and then they edit it down, and you have gold. But yeah, she's not a person. There's that's not a believable performance. What it is a fun and entertaining performance. If I had to think of something critically to say. Still with me?
Yeah, I'm still with you. I'm listening. Okay.
Yeah. Besides that, I will make one comment about the writing of Roger's character. I said before that he's sort of unobservant. That opening scene, and I said this to my kids when we were watching it, they made him so oblivious. I don't know how a human woman falls in love with that man. I just don't. And we all love, love wants what it wants. It loves what it loves. But he's not paying any attention to Anita. And she's like, "You're the one." I'm like, wait, what? And then 2 seconds later, they're married. And you're made to believe it was like a whirlwind romance or whatever. But it very much, like, it's the opposite of the thing I usually criticize, where I'm like, we got to get the kids to the mall. And so they're like, you know... Mm-hmm. And I get often frustrated with certain movies that, like, they're not pacing the first act well enough to get to where we need to go. We need to get Bill Murray in the army, and we need to get the kids to the mall. And in this one, Bill Murray drove the kids to the army. It was like, wait, what? You know, like, this went so fast. I don't even know these characters. And it's as if the movie was just like, who fucking cares? Nobody cares about Anita. Nobody cares about Roger. All we care about is the dogs in Cruella. They're the stars of this thing, so let's get there already. And it's like, I understand what you're saying, movie, but that's not good writing. All the characters we should get to know. they're going to lose their dog shortly. We should feel bad about that, other than the overall general feeling of one should not lose one's dogs. Mm-hmm. But they don't particularly flesh them out or get you to know them well enough to where when bad things happen to them, you're particularly moved by it. I also don't really... I accept their marriage because it's a thing that needs to happen in the movie, and they're adorable, so I'll get over it. But it's not well written.
Now, if we're gonna pick at nits for faults, not really. But on the other hand, I can also kind of understand because they were doing everything they could to keep the movie squarely focused on Pongo, Perdita, the Dalmatians, and Cruella.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's certainly a fair criticism, but I can't say I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here and it's a shit movie because of it. I don't fucking care either.
No.
But, but we're much to my father's chagrin, who thinks I'm way too negative about movies, says the man who hated Deadpool. That's a whole other story. I'm fine with it. I don't particularly care, but again, you turned on this podcast to see what were the good, the bad, and the ugly about this film, and so as you said, it is a nit that was picked, but it is there. It is very apparent to somebody who studies film. That's it. That's all I got. You got anything else?
Not really. Not much else. I haven't seen the sequel. I don't know that I'll really bother, but man, this is one of those rare movies that I can honestly say I'm genuinely thankful I sat down and watched it. And Disney, if you're going to keep doing these live action adaptations, someone needs to go back and watch this one and take notes, because this one just hits every beat that Mulan and Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and The Jungle Book, and so on and so forth, that they all missed.
So, real quick, because I don't know, I mean, maybe if they end up doing an actual Cruella 2, we will, maybe we'll do the sequel. But I almost called you and said, hey, you want to pivot and do A Long Road to Ruin instead, since I didn't realize that there was a sequel at the time. And I was like, no, it's fine, let's just talk about the first one. Kind of glad I did, because here's some notes. The film received negative reviews, but was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Costume Design, losing to Gladiator. The plot of this thing is Cruella de Vil attempts to steal puppies for her grandest fur coat yet. I'm reading this and feeling bad about myself and life in general. Boy, am I glad we don't have to talk about this. But this is some fucking cast, man. Gerard Depardieu is in this. Joan Griffith, Alice Evans. Like, nobody from the original besides Glenn Close is in this thing. But boy, did they bring in some... Well, Tim McNierney comes back as Alonzo. Eric Idle is in this as a bird. Ben Crompton, Carol McReady, Ian Richardson, David Horowitz, Kerry Shale, and Ron Cook. So yeah, especially those first couple that I read, like they got Jeopardy. What did Gerard Depardieu have a gambling problem? Why is he in this? What the hell, man? God, that's a name I don't think I've even thought of in how many years. Ugh. So I bet you're thinking, how much did the critics love this movie? They didn't. 31% out of 90 reviews, so definitely rotten. Critics say it dragged in parts, potentially boring, too violent for a G-rated movie. Metacritic gave it a 35 out of 100 on 24 reviews, and CinemaScore gave it a B+. By the way, CinemaScore is so overly weighted that if you get a B+ in a movie, you're practically porn. It's that bad. So yeah, so if this got a B+, not good. So I'm glad I did not text you real quick and be like, hey, want to pivot and do A Long Road to Ruin so we can talk about this piece of trash.
Yeah, so am I. So am I. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. All All right, that's it. Case dismissed. 101 Dalmatians, not guilty. So that's it. Sean and I will be back a week from tonight. We're doing something a little bit different. We're not doing an on trial. We'll be joined by Alexis Haina, and we will be talking about a pitch that I got from Sean. Sean has done a deep dive back into his great love of comic books and was like, Mark, Teen Titans, the Judas Contract. And I'm like, sure, but we have to watch the movie and read the book. And he was like, yes.
Twist my arm.
Yeah. So that's what we're doing in a week. And then July 1st, actually before that, June 11th, assuming you were still able to, this being Pride Month, and Sean is certainly full of pride and wants to talk all about it, we are going to be doing a comic book review of DC Pride #1, and Alexis Haina will be on that one too, because that was actually her pitch.
I am excited.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I am too. I think it'll be an interesting discussion, to say the least. And then we will be doing an on trial for The Right Stuff from 1983. This is going to be a difficult one because I don't know. This is going to be yet another situation where it's like critically acclaimed and darling, and it's like in the National Registry for Film, and I got to be an asshole and figure out what's wrong with it now. So that's it. We got on trials for that in July. As a matter of fact, July 8th, Sean and I will be doing a Long Road to Ruin for the Purge movies to go along with that. And then, airing on July 22nd, will be our on trial for the original Space Jam. I bet you can't wait for that, huh?
Oh, that's always a fun rewatch.
And then finally, this one I did pitch Sean out of left field, and he went, yeah, let's do it. Netflix is releasing 3 Fear Street movies based on the set of novels that came out years ago by R.L. Stine. And so we are waiting till all 3 drop, and then we are going to review all 3 as a Long Road to Ruin, much the same way Jason Teasley and I reviewed the Zombie trilogy when Aquarium of the Dead came out. So, Long Road to Ruin quickly becoming, hey, let's review all the movies at once. An examination of film franchises that rose and fall? Maybe, but definitely, hey, let's just review a bunch of movies in one show.
Hey, to be fair, we started with an idea of where did this go wrong.
Oh.
We tried.
And I forgot. And yet another example of, hey, does anyone want to do this? No. Sean, I'm so annoyed. No one wants to do this. Well, you didn't ask me. So in that vein, we are reviewing the straight-to-VOD video game adaptation movie Werewolves Within. And we will be doing that on July 4th. So listen to me and Sean review a movie while it sounds like Baghdad's being bombed on the outside.
Yes. National Freak Out the Pets Day.
Yeah. I have a dog now, and my dog not a fan of huge, storms and whatnot. So, yeah, we are already making plans for Nigel to make sure she is comfortable and okay when they start lighting off the fireworks. We might have to get her those autism, headphones.
Thundershirt.
Yeah. Before we go, let me quick do one more thing, and then I'm going to let Sean have the very, very last word. He's going to do his plugs, and then I'm just going to yell goodbye. The music in this was actually pretty good. It was a very well thought of score by Michael Kamen, and that score is available on AmazonMusic.com. It's available for unlimited streaming. And the way to do that is to click our link here in the description of this podcast for getamazonmusic.com/W2M Network. You click it, you fill out the information, you agree to the free 30 days, you go and download 101 Dalmatians by Michael Kamen and have yourself a time. And when you're done with that, and you're like, all right, I've now listened to the Dog soundtrack, what else you got? You can listen to Ailstorm by Dogs, an entire Ailstorm record, barked by dogs. That's on AmazonMusic.com. There's music by cats. There's lots of actually albums recorded by cats, believe it or not, because our stupid culture. So whatever your animal you want to hear mew a song is available for you to listen to on AmazonMusic.com, and you can hear all kinds of music about pets. You could hear the song "Pets" by Porno for Pyros. That's on AmazonMusic.com. All of this music that's pet related or not pet related, if you're not an obsessive nut job like I am. So go ahead and click our link, sign up for the free 30 days. You don't like it, you cancel after 30 days. No fuss, no muss. You like it, you keep it, and you keep on streaming. All right, Sean. All the things. Go.
Great. Now running through my head, I've got, we'll make great pets. We'll make great pets. Oh.
We're porno for pyros. Porno for pyros. All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
You ass. Oh, follow me on Twitter at Comer Codex for updates when I go live streaming on twitch.tv/Comer Codex several times a week. Usually playing some combination of Overwatch, Apex Legends, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, and various and sundry story-based games. Yeah, generally on the weekends, usually sometime Thursday through Sunday. As for the last word on 101 Dalmatians, by all means, whatever age you are, see it. It is one of the few, very, very few, live-action Disney movies of the past 30 years that I would absolutely apply the label of bona fide classic to. And yes, if you can't tell, it 100% exceeds its source material. So, absolutely, 5 stars. Joe Bob says check it out.
It is also better than Cruella. And for more on that, check out our 2-hour and 20-minute rant against that movie. Until then, for Sean Comer, I'm Mark Radulich. This has been On Trial. Be well, be safe, and behave.